Well, I have to say, for the value, that place is exceptional. You can see their cheeky chappy smile. And here's some advice: if you're in London, you think it's all a bit expensive, 1 hour train to Ipswich solves the problem. We could laugh about the modernism that is right next to Ipswich Town Stadium, but so I'm in sunny Ipswich. As you can see, a typical English day. The sun is out, blue skies everywhere.
Been able to detect an undercurrent of sarcasm in your voice.
Not the case. This is the first time I've ever been to Ipswich. First time ever. 1 hour by train from London Liverpool Street. Took exactly an hour. Now here I am in sunny Ipswich, and we find ourselves on the river that sort of cuts into East Anglia. And it used to be one of England's biggest ports. So if you were to head this way, you would get to the port. And it is one of England's oldest cities. So they say. And according to TripAdvisor, not sponsored by TripAdvisor in any way, it's the 7th most popular tourist destination in England, if you can believe it. Look at this. Look at this marvellous sight. Magnificent.
Is that new thing called sarcasm?
So as I walk past Ipswich Borough Council, one of these beautiful buildings thought up by the marvellous government of this country. And again! They built it beside this dual carriageway. They used this land. You couldn't make this land into a better use. A sprawling car park. But over here, you see the floodlights to Ipswich Town Football Club. Ipswich Football Club, home to, I think, Bobby Robson. I think he's commemorated here.
How are you feeling, Sir Bobby? Very well, thank you. Wish I was playing.
After 20 minutes, Douglas makes rings round the French defence. He passes back. And Robson shoots his first for England.
It looked a bit dubious. The second one is a miracle. Marvellous goal.
Scoring indicated his non-participation in the final. England and Bobby believed the rest of us would be there.
He is denied the chance of capturing the greatest prize of all.
It's very special, and
And a rival to my old team, Cambridge United. Cambridge United often have a bitter rivalry between Ipswich Town. But I'm not much of a football fan, but it is a distraction for the masses.
Oh, the gladiators of their time. Huh?
And we're going to go take in Ipswich. The monstrosity that you see on that modern day castle, is it the Ipswich flag or is it something else? No, it is the alphabet people's flag. If you put 4 of them together, it does look rather sinister. Here we have the hard-working men of the fire station. Oh, hard-marking men and women. And the police. The modern building that we saw there is the local police station. If you wondered why the alphabet people's flag is up there, it's because that's the police for you these days.
Carry the pride bag, bigot, or they'll sick the cops on you. Enthusiastically display the occupation flag, or they'll treat you like the transphobic scum you are.
We could laugh about the modernism that is right next to Ipswich Town Stadium, but there is a reason for the modernism, the brutal modernism of modern Ipswich. This town was destroyed in huge parts during the Second World War. And even in the First World War, the German blimps, they came over and they bombed the crap out of this town. In the Second World War, the port was badly destroyed, where I think over 80 people died in one night. Despite Ipswich being very well connected to London, Ipswich does love its sprawling car parks, obviously catering for the football crowd around here. This big monstrous building over here with the AXA sign on the top, it's because there's a lot of insurers come from Ipswich. Insurance companies such as AXA, Churchill, to name but a few. Huge market for insurance in Ipswich. Mainly because Ipswich has a big agricultural history. The first tractor was made in Ipswich, although very few tractors today. Ipswich as a town dates back to the Roman era, and in my mind boasts a remarkable blend of history and modernity. As we will come to see in this video, its streets are aligned with an array of different architecture that showcases centuries of stories etched in the bricks and the cobblestones. And here we have the Ukrainian flag. I've seen a few of these Ukrainian flags since I've arrived on the train in Ipswich. One back at the stadium, and now one here. As the video goes on, we will observe the awful to the beautiful and try to get our bearings as best we can on this very brief excursion of this changing town. So it's been 3 years since COVID basically infected the minds and the bodies of the world, and you can see there's still decimation in Ipswich. There's to let signs, for sale signs. It's seen better days, I think, some of these streets. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has definitely seen better days. It definitely isn't working anymore. And this place, whatever it used to be, 70s, 60s architectural, but it's just basically no longer. It's a side entrance, so maybe they're going to be doing something with it, maybe pulling it down. Give you an idea on prices around here. 250,000 for a 290,000 for this house. We found the life. I think I found the life of Ipswich Centre. Just headed into the historic town. This is the entrance. This is the Sir Giles Gilbert Scott statue. The statue commemorates Sir Giles Gilbert Scott, a prominent British architect renowned for his contributions to the field of architecture and his iconic designs, which include the very famous red telephone box. However, some of his buildings are more questionable. He designed the Battersea Power Station and a few eyesores that dot the British landscape. Notice the difference between architecture when we come from the brutalist modernism inflicted upon Ipswich in the last 50 years to these buildings, which are so much older in comparison and so much more beautiful. It's almost like they gave more time and attention to. This one probably dating back 800 years over here. Heading down this street, we approach Ipswich Town Square, a place that feels timeless but also has so much potential that really isn't being met. The old town hall was a focal point in the old days. It tells a story of Ipswich's past through its ornate details and its grandeur. The surrounding square, you'll find a blend of traditional and modern businesses, at least those that are still standing. This is the old town hall. Look at the comparisons between what we saw of Ipswich Town Council, and then we look at what our forefathers were capable of. The Ukrainian flag at the top, the English flag, no dodgy flag that you saw above the police station. This is beautiful, this building.
Soon great trouble will arise among the nations, trouble that will not cease until Jesus comes. So what will be the cause of the crisis? The answer is in this free book, The Great Controversy. But evil men and impostors will go on from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. For then shall be great tribulation.
For this, even back in the day, the post office used to be a beautiful building. Now it's been turned into a cocktail bar, the Botanist, that you find all over London and probably other parts of the UK. Now it's what was once probably built at the time of Queen Victoria. Beautiful, beautiful building to sort of mirror the town hall. They took things seriously back then. And then complacency and laziness took over. And that's why we saw the buildings that we saw at the start of this video, as opposed to the building that we see here. Very close ties to Cambridge here. In fact, the Hoss Sausage Company exists in Cambridge. I remember growing up in Cambridge that this existed. It was always a kind of go-to place if you're feeling a little bit hungry and wanted a bit of fast food. For a decent sausage, you'd have a regular with cheese. You can see this once used to be a phone shop, a car phone warehouse, I think. But at the top of this building, what we see is what this building used to be. They used to sell fancy china, they used to sell ebony goods, ladies and gents toiletries. Well, I tried to go to the tea room, closed. This pub I believe was once the Golden Lion, is now seeing better days. It's a sad thing. Right next to the town hall, well, there's a lot of bustling, it's just all closed. Oh, fantastic, Portuguese. So last time I tried saladados, which is probably not how you pronounce it, was in Portugal, and obviously we're in a Portuguese cafe. This one's a chicken one, just cut it in half. It's good, very good. Looks like a decent craft beer place, maybe one to check out later. We're going to walk through this archway, take in a little bit more, having just stuffed my face on some very pleasant Portuguese brioche. Very nice. The irony, Unite Union causes so much destruction in the UK that directly opposite it is this. Next to the downfall of Debenhams, you may have seen in a number of my videos how this chain has collapsed, basically since COVID. You can see the decimation of COVID, the local high street falling apart.
This is your one-off opportunity to get your hands on a free copy of the Grateful Book.
Oh wow, let's go have a look at this church. So this Art Deco building has seen better days, sadly decimated on the main high street. You'd think with the footfall, and there's a lot of footfall here, next to two beautiful churches, that they may have put some use to it. I guess the landlord's rates, the incompetent council, makes this place unrentable at the moment. And here we go, another one gone out of business, A lovely, what used to be a very old pub that's probably been modernised and now attracts a more sporty crowd called the Rep. The clock is wrong, but this is St Mary Le Tower, very, very old church. I'd like to tell you more about it, but on Google it doesn't seem to have much at the moment. All the simple fact is the data on my phone is not working that well. Sadly for myself and you guys, we can't get in there because it seems to be closed. But it's a bell tower, you see, up there. If we were here on the hour, maybe we'd get to hear some magnificent bells. So what we're going to do, here's a little bit of detail about the church. A fine church of medieval origins, greatly restored and altered in 1850 and 1870 by the local architect. The landmark spire, which rises to 175 feet. The interior was restored in the 19th century, but we're not going to know what that looks like. And the fine font dating from the 15th century. As a town church, it used to be for civic and ceremonial occasions. But what we're going to do is we're going to walk towards Christchurch Park and see what that's like. So this is the southern edge of Christchurch Park, and I think this is probably where, if you were a well-to-do family, you would have wanted to live around at least the outskirts of this. Ipswich attracted a lot of merchants back in the day, insurers, merchants that were part of the sending people out on the ships to basically take possession of things and trade with the world. Now we have a town that probably is trying to renovate itself, but it in reality has probably seen better days than what we've seen from the architecture. It certainly has seen better days. It's a town of 150,000 people. A town that's changed its population dramatically since the 80s and 90s, where in 1991, according to the census, 96% of the population was white. Now, in the 2021 census, less than 84% of the population is white. But that would probably include Eastern Europeans, that would include people from Western Europe. The local population has changed dramatically. is actually a very beautiful war memorial. It's interesting, this is a war memorial to those soldiers that gave up their lives in the South African War between 1899 and 1902. You don't see many of these war memorials so prominent in the UK, but it's nice to see the local population that lost their lives in that war remembered. Back in the day, of just to the peak of the end of the empire before the First World War, started by the internationalists, the bankers, brought the downfall of the British Empire. Wow. 1933, Peter, and Thompson, 2006. I like the fact World War II Memorial Project. Here, people can sit side by side and face each other as opposed to just sort of staring into the distance. It's kind of nice. So as we stroll up the hill, we find at some point, probably fairly recently, the council thought we don't want people falling in the water, and they've just kind of destroyed this by turning the duck pond into a bit of a duck pond prison. At least the birds can fly in, but I think that's kind of sad. So this is an interesting concept because of the spiralling costs that pretty much all of the world is experiencing, with heating costs, gas prices going up, electricity prices going up. Heating has become unaffordable for some people, so this place welcomes people in during the winter as a warm centre, so you can come in and you can have a free cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And it's basically financed by the National Lottery, and that's the lottery that pretty much everyone in the UK plays. You can play it 2-3 times a week in the hope that one day you might become a millionaire, but it never happens.
We can't win the lottery.
It's right in the sort of the south centre of Christchurch Park, just above from the mansion that, well, regal people used to live before the park was sold off. At the beginning of the 17th century it was sold off.
Білочка.
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 Oh, what a jump. But you guys have more beautiful red squirrels. So this ice cream hut may not have been always an ice cream hut, but it was made in 1898. Hopefully, when the warm weather returns, the ice creams will return, and I'm sure that will be the case because it's a prominent part. I don't know what's in here. Lots of squirrels. We have a dumping ground for industry. But this is a park that is clearly steeped in history. I mean, it was given to the council at the end of the 17th century by the rich man that lived down in the mansion down there. I'm sure in the summer, when the leaves start sprouting, it looks far more beautiful. With the backdrop of the daffodils, which are soon going to emerge, we have one of the biggest bins that I've ever seen in probably all of my life. This is a bin that I keep seeing around Ipswich, and this is the first time I'm filming it. But this is probably why Ipswich has staked the claim to one of the cleanest towns and cities of England. Thankfully, people don't miss the bins around here. They put the rubbish in the bin and creates for a clean park. This is where the friars apparently used to live. There's a big religious significance to Ipswich, something we're going to discover as we go on. But this is what the mansion is. This is defined as the mansion of Christchurch Park, and later became a place where, this is the Wolsey Art Gallery. Shall we check it out? The Wolsey Art Gallery. Well, I couldn't get into the Wolsey Art Gallery, but I'm going to try and get into this little, what appears to be a gift shop or a coffee shop. See if we can get in the back entrance. I was slightly wrong. It's not just a gift shop. This is actually a Tudor kitchen. We've got the hog being potentially roasted here. Beautiful example of a Tudor kitchen. Way before the days of the microwave, way before the days of the modern hob This is how the Tudors used to cook. And as you can see here, the cutting board, all the knife strokes, all the meat being probably prepared here for the people that obviously lived at the mansion and the people that used to visit the mansion. For history enthusiasts, Christchurch Mansion is a must visit. This Tudor mansion houses a fascinating collection of art and artefacts, offering a glimpse into Ipswich's past. So this Tudor house was built, I think, in the 1540s and steeped in history. Let's go have a quick ganders at what we see. All of these very regal faces looking down upon us. So we head up the creaky stairs. This looks like a bust of Alexander there, but I'm not sure it is. It might be. I tell you what's fantastic about just this place existing is the fact that you can walk in here and it's for free. Although there is a tip area, you can tap your card, give a small donation, but this is all for free. I was just hearing from the man downstairs that this place was saved by the Cobble family. He was a banker in London, but he was connected to the Cobble brewery, which no longer exists. Maybe this is him, maybe, I'm not sure. And he saved it. Instead of housing being built all over Christchurch Park, which is right next to this place, he basically said, look, we need to save the park. I give this land and this place to the people, which is why you can enter this place for free. Christchurch Mansion was originally known as Whitterpole House, and it was built in 1548 during the reign of Henry VIII. I was always a bit of a pasty kid growing up, but in a way I kind of feel aligned to the pastiness of these ones. And the reason it was called Whitterpole House is because it was constructed by Edmund Whitterpole, a very wealthy merchant and a member of the Ipswich Corporation. The mansion was basically his symbol of his prosperity and his social standing in the community. The mansion houses an impressive collection of art. It is particularly known for its collection of Thomas Gainsborough's portraits, making it a significant centre for art enthusiasts, especially given that it's free. I was particularly taken back by the Monet. I guess the question I'm asking you, the viewer, have you been to Ipswich? And if you have, what did you think of Ipswich? What did you think of this manor house? And leave a comment below. There's a beautiful sound of ticking grandfather clocks. My father always been a little bit obsessed with these clocks. We've had a couple, or more than a couple in our homes over the years, always of the belief that they could be restored. And what this shows is, you'll see the rotation up here. During the night, it will basically show the stars. During the day, it will show the day sort of scene. And truly magnificent pieces. A little bit of memorabilia which would have been found in the house. Those Casino Royale type nights where you play roulette or poker. Kids games, keep the kids entertained, and then obviously the most important piece in many a house really would have been the doll's house. And this was where they probably would have done the washing up. These old wooden sinks, the washing up, the old-fashioned irons, drying the clothes, straightening the clothes. A lot of work used to go on down here. back in the day, the number of staff in the house certainly would have been similar to what you would have seen on these British television shows about these houses. I can't even remember the names because I don't watch these shows. But I know some of you do. Connected to the house is the Great Hall, which is probably where they would have done a bit of dancing, a bit of entertaining. We've got museum pieces. Here we have some ancient boomerangs. Serious, impressive boomerangs, more impressive than the ones that you would buy at the tourist shop in Sydney. These are the real McCoy. The art collection at Christchurch Mansion, nestled within the historic Tudor house, embodies the ever-changing tapestry of artistic expression. Rooted in the elegance of Thomas Gainsborough's portraits and English landscapes, the collection offers a glimpse into the aesthetic sensibilities of its time. However, this mansion's art collection is not static. It breathes and evolves. New acquisitions diversify its holdings, while the reimagining of existing pieces provides fresh perspectives. Special exhibitions and loans from other institutions often introduce novel dialogue, ensuring that the art collection remains dynamic. A visit to any part of the world doesn't feel complete until I find a Monet, and this is another Monet. And a reflection on Ipswich's cultural and historic heritage. In this majestic manner, the art within the walls is a testament to the enduring conversation between the past and the present, where history and creativity entwine in a timeless embrace. Well, I have to say, for the value, that place is exceptional. Free to get in, Christchurch Mansion, beautiful in every way, wonderful representation and illustration of what a Tudor mansion is. Truly, truly exceptional. I really enjoyed that, and just seeing the Monets, and I saw the Turner. Honestly, beautiful. Onwards, shall we go? Onwards. There's one noticeable difference between churches in the UK and churches in Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe, and pretty much most of Europe, they tend to be open most of the time. There's a vicar, there's a priest manning the churches. Due to the downfall of Western civilization, we generally find that most churches are very much unloved in England, despite their beauty. This one is made of flint. Beautiful church. You'll find a lot of flint in East Anglia. Pushed down during the Ice Age, these flint scattered the scenery of East Anglia, and then they made these beautiful churches with all this flint and stone. A church that maybe, unless there's a special occasion, you can't go into on a Saturday. This brings back memories. Growing up as a child, I had a similar tank to this, or glass container. We had a corn snake, just like this. But the corn snake we had was a little bit more orange. But this chap, or chapess, is very, very beautiful.
There's a cricket right there. They're really fast geckos. And if another animal tries to get them, they've got really long tails. Their tails will just fall off.
Tortoises over here.
Come in.
Bearded dragon. This beautiful baby corn snake. All yours for £79. But look at this one here. His eyes, if you can see his eyes. That is an albino gopher snake. Wow. And this guy, a Florida pine snake. Very cool. I like these guys. Hello. Definitely got characters, these guys. You can see their cheeky chappy smile. Very beautiful.
Trust in me.
tell you, this pet shop has everything when it comes to reptiles and fish. The Viking pet shop or something, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Truly, truly vast. I haven't looked at pet things in years, but a square pet tank, a square fish tank these days, costs you £79. This eyesore of a building is called the Hope Centre. It's a coffee shop that isn't functioning. Sometimes I have no hope for the architects of the late 20th century and early 21st century. It's a real shame. Why could they not look to the past and think they did it so well? But no, they thought they would be different. And this is what we end up with. Let's cross. I mean, it looks like a castle, but it's boarded up like a... I have no idea what this used to be. Maybe the old police station or something. St. Clement's Church. One review. Notice the very black flint that we have here. Each flint would have been generally in a round casing, but it's been smashed by the builders to sort of create this look. And I think they've been very specific, because you can see how most of it is black, but normally it's less consistent than that. So they've been quite selective with their flint. Maybe I'm just sort of giving them too many compliments here, but I think it's done on purpose. They've taken their time. Obviously it takes a long time to get, but notice the different colorings of this flint. Very beautiful. But let me guess, the church will be closed. Oh, donations welcomed, but Katie was here. Nobody's really been in this church for a very long time, I think. And this is one of the things I really despise about the leaders of this country, and the fact that they've allowed this to happen to this once great nation. Would this have been the door? This church has not been used in a very long time. We've just literally walked around the whole grounds. This church has not been used in a long time. This is a real shame. Stained glass, they've been put gratings on it so people don't potentially, they think vandals are going to destroy it. They've got... What a shame. I think with these videos, the videos that you see of me touring the UK, you'll start to witness what I've been witnessing for years, the decay of the UK. This once great land, withering because of the lack of respect for its history, the lack of respect for its culture, the lack of respect for what it once was and what it could be. You wonder why students turn to socialism and communism, question mark here, asking that. This is when you see the modern buildings like this. This is the University of Suffolk. Suffolk being the county that Ipswich is in, this being one of the university buildings. How uninspiring must this building be to the student population? No wonder they turn to socialism. Here we have the ports of Ipswich. Once a huge trading port. Merchants would come here delivering the goods from around the world. Now just expensive yachts and boats, low range to mid range, fairly expensive. And then surrounding the ports we have these rabbit hutch new apartment buildings.
The origins of Ipswich Port can be traced back to the early medieval period. Ipswich, a town with strong Saxon roots, became a prominent trading centre during the 7th century. The port began to grow in importance during the 12th century when it was granted royal charters by Henry II, allowing it to hold markets and develop further as a trading hub. During the Middle Ages, the port became a hub for the export of English wool to Europe. Wool was a highly valuable commodity, and Ipswich's merchants grew wealthy from this trade. The port's success continued into the Renaissance period. The 17th century saw the decline of Ipswich's wool trade due to changing market conditions. However, the town's maritime activity rebounded as it diversified into commodities such as grain, malt, and coal. The port's recovery was further boosted by the construction of the wet dock in the early 19th century, which improved its maritime facilities. This dock improved a sheltered deep water harbour that allowed larger vessels to access the port. It enabled Ipswich to expand its trade in various goods and materials, from agricultural products to manufactured goods.
You can see the port is still functioning maybe, but it looks like there's a lot of rust on this. It's mostly pleasure seekers in this port now. Old school cars and more rabbit hutches going up. As far as the eye can see. I went to the end of the port in the hope that there might be some craft beer breweries, but instead there's just a builder's lumber yard. So I'm going to head back. I'm going to head back into the city. I'm going to see what else we can see. I'm excited. Are you excited? You can see in the summer, potentially this place will be very busy. This is the Aurora restaurant, probably packed full of wine drinkers and beer drinkers in the summer, sitting on the terrace by the side of the port on a bleak Saturday in February. Gives you an idea when I film this. A little bit dead. A little bit modern. This is called Neptune's Way, and we've got Neptune's Trident up here, or Poseidon's Trident as I prefer to call him. And even got Poseidon's Trident on the fence.
In the present day, Ipswich Port still remains a vital hub for the international trade and commerce. It has continued to modernise, but has it really done a good enough job? Only time will tell. Let's hope Ipswich Port can continue and strive to be a success in the future.
So this is the Vikings bakehouse, and you might remember I was in the Vikings aquarium where they were selling fish and reptiles. Well, the Vikings had a huge presence here. Back in the 9th century, the Vikings raided Ipswich, and they basically burnt the whole place to the ground, and not much was left. But then the Vikings were forced out eventually, and they never got to return. But a lot of attempted Viking raids happened in this part of the world. They take the best ladies and they take them back and slaughter everyone else and drink from the Englishman's skull, hence skull. People still hark back to the past and refer to the Vikings. I was just commenting on how nice this part of the waterfront was, then I saw the brutalism of this concrete that is Pizza Express in this building. This marina was opened back in 2002 by the Queen. So 20 years they've had a refurb of this area, and there's still, as you see, buildings are still going up. Some obviously nicer than others. Pod living is being encouraged in Ipswich. People living in their 1 bedrooms, their 2 bedrooms, studio apartments, with the promise of you're never that far away from the services you require. What the WEF would describe as the 15-minute city. As you can see, the refurbishment of the port isn't quite complete. We've got the modern building here with nothing going on in the shops underneath, but then we've got, this is what for decades the port would have looked like, as the goods would have been brought in through these big doors. Workers, blue-collar workers would have worked in these ports. But now it's just in decay.
In Ipswich, history, culture, and modernity coexist. Do they coexist harmoniously? It's a town where past and the future now come together. It creates a place that clearly has problems, but hopefully a place that can emerge from these problems.
See, as we move away from the port just being behind this building, we're suddenly exposed to the problem that Ipswich faces. Here we go. We have car parks, land that isn't really being used, poor planning by the authorities, and then what we've seen consistently are these churches that really aren't being used. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should adorn these churches with the alphabet people flags and turn them into centres for, well, you name it. What I am suggesting is these could be put to better use. try Alpha here. You know what? This church might actually be being used, but the River Church. So occasionally this church is open. Just not open today, that's all, on a Saturday. And there's another one just over here.
Ipswich attempts to be a cultural haven with its theatres, museums and galleries serving as the beating heart of the local art scene. It is a place where creativity attempts to at least know no bounds.
Hello, dog. Hello. Sorry. Wow. So if you are interested in an old 1940s tea room, this is open Tuesday to Saturday between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. and sadly it's just after 4, but it does look rather beautiful in there. Proper place to have tea. As we're in Ipswich, we really must check out the Thomas Wolsey Free House, the Thomas Wolsey Pub. If it's open, should we check it out? Yes, it is. Should we go in here? Oh, that's really good. That's really good. I'll have a pint of that, please. You want a taste? Fantastic, thank you. One thing that occurred to me as the pint was being poured and I was filming the pint being poured was those not accustomed to England or English culture probably think, well, why is the beer being poured from the tap in the way it is? Well, that's cask beer, and that's the beer that the Americans in the Second World War made jokes about the English for, because cask beer is generally sort of room temperature beer, but not room temperature beer, the cellar temperature beer. So in the summer, it can be slightly warmer than the cold 1 degree beer that they're used to. And what you'll notice about cask beer is it's flat. There's no fizz to it, there's no gas to it. It's a beer that I like to at least support. When you're traveling around the UK, you'll often find the cask from the local area. This is local cask. And this one's really good.
Usually, English people drink cider.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
The problem is, I spent too long in Thomas Wolsey's pub back there to see Thomas Wolsey in daylight. This is the statue of Thomas Wolsey. He obviously was the, well, how can you explain it? He was the priest, he was the vicar to Henry VIII. Although Henry VIII, in his last year, or Thomas's last year, grew despondent with Thomas, and he basically called him to London, and he said, look, I need to see you. And he was basically going to be done for treason. But on the way, this chap died of natural causes. Now, Thomas Wolsey didn't die in Ipswich. He was born in Ipswich. He say he died on the way, and he's buried somewhere else. This is a beautiful statue to him. I like this old building. You see how it overhangs, saving on tax. But look at the wonkiness of the windows. Ignoring the price of holidays, we're going to enjoy the building. It's a shame that it's got dark, but this is just how it is. And this is the 25 pub. Kitchen there. This is a rugby legend, apparently, looking very beef. He was a RAF pilot and a rugby man, I think. It's a shame it's so dark, but he's on this beautiful little old street, spoiled by the fact that the cars stream past these old Tudor buildings, but not too bad, eh? So look at this. I thought, what am I going to do in the evening? Well, the Ipswich Theatre has the Nutcracker on, a total of £23. You couldn't even enter the foyer of the London Ballet for that. So probably not your typical way to spend a Saturday night, but I thought, why not? Let's a bit of culture. I enjoyed all the ballets as I was touring around Ukraine. When in Ipswich, check out the Nutcracker, take it in. So I have to say that was a very enjoyable ballet performance, and the ripe old bargain of £23, you can't really go wrong with that. Very amazing performance, fantastic seats. I was a bit concerned when I paid for the seats I wouldn't be able to see the feet. You could see them perfectly clear. It was super close. You try to get something like that in London, and here's some advice. If you're in London, you think it's all a bit expensive to see the ballet or something, 1 hour train to Ipswich solves the problem. I'm just on my way to find a pub. Well, I have to say, Ipswich was incredibly enjoyable last night. I took in a number of pubs which you just wouldn't have seen and had a great time at the ballet. That was fantastic. And I just now found myself a little bit down the coast at the Butt and Oyster Pub, where I'm going to have a Sunday roast, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the festivities, have a nice English ale, and then I'm going to head back to London. Like I say, only 1 hour on the train, as long as the trains are working. Anyway, if you like this content, click that subscribe button, click the like button, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Until next time.